Hey, welcome to another update on Archmage Rises. Here, as always, with me is Nick.
Hi.
Hi. This is the most advanced role-playing game ever being made, and it's Durhan's favorite. That's right. And today I'm going to show you, Nick and the rest of the world, dynamically generated quests and why that has been so hard for me. Well, if I was a little smarter, it would go a little faster, but we all knew that. But over the last 2 weeks, I've been working on these quests generator and also how it can the NPCs can explain the quest to you. So I'm going to be a little different in this video because I'm going to show a little bit of the code and stuff that goes into that, and then actually show the game. What do you think?
That sounds great.
You love the code. You love the code. Okay. I think even for people that don't know how to code, it'll still be okay. Before we get into that, I just want to show you this. Archmage, the board game. So
that's not your Archmage.
This is a case where the board game has come out before the computer game, and it's like that moment in Spaceballs where the video is actually done before they finish shooting the movie, and this is happening now. When is it happening? Right now. Okay. You're not
Well, what is this? It's not Archmage Rises.
No, it's not Archmage Rises. So this is a Kickstarter game. Somebody brought it to my attention saying like, hey, there's an Archmage game on Kickstarter. Is that you? And I said no. And anyways, it's got some pretty nice artwork. It's got some things. So I decided to fund it just to see what these guys are going on. That's right. You can make money on Kickstarter through people funding you just so they can figure out what the heck is going on through corporate espionage. So this is my corporate espionage. And
nice work.
So I do plan to make Archmage Rises the board game. I guess that's a bit of a spoiler. Oops. But at this point, it's not even worth talking about because I have zero credibility because I haven't even made the video game. So who cares if I plan to make a board game or not? But I did contact a trademark lawyer in the U.S. in order to find out like what exactly I need to do because the big important thing about protecting a name like Archmage Rises is you have to enforce it, right? So, if this guy makes a board game called Archmage and I don't enforce, then that means anybody can make anything about Archmage. And anyways, the answer was that Archmage Rises is a video game and this is a board game, and those are considered completely separate things, and there's really nothing that I can do from a trademark law perspective. So there you go, everybody. There's a little bit of U.S. trademark law just to make this a better video. Okay, so let's talk about these dynamic quests. So this is the third thing of the three big things that apparently takes me 2 months per thing to do. The work just goes on and on and on and drives me crazy. But we have some really good fans out there that have been encouraging me along the way, and that's been very helpful. So I've been complaining a lot at the dinner table about how hard and tedious this work has been, and then Durhan was responding to me on some things on the Steam forums, and actually read some of those things to my wife at dinner and made her feel better about like, oh well, at least they appreciate the stuff that you're doing. I was like, yeah, this is a lot better. So let me kind of set it up. So we have this dynamic world where everything is generated and then simulated from that point on. And so I can't just write quests. I can't pre-write quests because I don't even know who's going to get what and what's going to happen to them and stuff. So the idea is that people are going about their lives and monsters are going about their lives, and then those things collide. They intersect. And when those things intersect, you get a quest. I guess I'm going to go off to the code right now. You know when you go in a role-playing game, you walk up to some person, and they're like, oh, help, I'm being attacked by rats. Can you please get them for me? That's what I'm trying to do in Archmage Rises. And it is ridiculous how much work it takes in order to generate that dynamically with the simulator and stuff. So in the game, we have this concept of patrol. And a patrol is a group of monsters that has left their lair and is going out monstering about throughout the land. And so when that patrol encounters an NPC or vice versa, depending on who moves first, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, an NPC or the player encounters a patrol. So here we are in the patrol code, And so we have an encounter, and so we check to see, hey, we have an encounter with a character. If it's the player, then we run an actual encounter in the game where you can role play through and make some choices and start a battle. Otherwise, if it's the NPCs, then we go, oh, okay, if it's an NPC, then we have a runaway DC of 5. So then we roll a D20 and we see, okay, if they're a soldier, they shouldn't be running away. And if they are someone else, then they just run away. Now, if they failed to run away, then they end up in combat, and then we figure out, okay, did they fight? If they're a soldier, then they fight, and some things happen, and that doesn't matter. But what matters is whatever happens. Here in the case, they lost combat and they took some damage and such. Whatever happens creates a new memory, and it's the memory that is this thing right here. This is what's so important. This is the thing that drives Archmage Rises, and I think makes it the greatest role-playing game ever made because it's so detailed. And so we say, hey, on the character's brain, remember that a monster attacked, and remember what you were currently doing. And the reason you have to remember what you're currently doing is because the AI has these task lists that they work through. It's like, hey, I wake up in the morning. Now I need to go to my workplace. I go to my workplace. Hey, I'm here. Now what do I do? Now I work. Okay, now I'm done work. What do I do? I go home. Okay, now I'm home. What am I going to do? Let's go to the bar. Okay, go to the bar. What do I do? Like, they're constantly working through these tasks. So if I don't capture right now what the heck they're doing, I won't be able to recreate it later on. So just figuring out what the heck this guy is doing at a current moment in time is really hard to do. If he's traveling somewhere, I have to then look and see, hey, where are you traveling to? What kind of a place is it? Are you traveling to a building? Is it this same building as your hometown? If it's not the same building as your hometown, then I need to preface what you're doing by saying, hey, I'm not just going to the inn, I'm going to the inn at this town, right? Because that's like a different thing, right? If you're going to your local Burger King, you're like, hey, I'm going to the Burger King. If you're going to Burger King in another town, you're like, hey, I'm going to the Burger King in San Diego, right? Like, you're clear about that. So anyways, I have to figure out what the heck the guy's doing, so that's what that is about. And then it just remembers the patrol that they encountered, right? And that gives me things like what kind of monsters they are, how many monsters are there, the makeup of the monsters, how difficult they are, like just everything I need to know. It also, when I remember something, I think if I go into this, it also remembers who was there, if they were following somebody or not, the date and time, the current weather. There's like so much stuff that needs to be remembered, okay, when this event happens. Okay, so now that they've tucked away that memory, how do I get it out in order to show it to the player? The player actually has something to do. And that is what I call a problem. And so we have this abstract class called problem. It's not very exciting. I'm not going to show you anything in particular about it. But anyways, I have this thing called a problem. And then I have a monster problem, which is a special kind of problem. And it has a bunch of data and stuff about the problem. But the most important thing is that it can take a memory and it can extract out from the memory all the stuff that goes into the problem. So knowing where the lair is, knowing who the chieftain of the lair is, knowing how many other people have seen goblins in that, so you can kind of store that up. So how does this person get a problem? The answer is, if you're walking along and goblins jump out and attack you, you have the problem right away, right? You don't think about it later at home and go, you know what? Remember that time when those goblins attacked me? That was a problem. So the way that I handle that was right away when you remember. So basically, when I take this memory and I put it in the data bank, I go here. When I see that I have this memory, I process the memory right away, and I look to see, right now I have just a little bit of code because I was dealing with all this monster stuff. If it was the memory of a monster attack, sighting a monster, or beating up some monsters, if it's any of those things, then that is a problem, and that problem gets shoved onto the problem list. So it's then there. Any questions so far, Nick?
I've got a lot of questions, but it would take too long to dig into it. I see that you're storing things as an object and then casting them back, so you can use it for a lot of different things contextually based on memory. I think that's pretty cool.
Yes. Yeah, that's a little bit of C-sharp sleight of hand.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, I'd have to make it more complicated. So I just I'll just have like one simple list. Everything's object, and I just start casting it to different things. Are you this? Nope. Are you this? Nope.
Right. Because otherwise, the function would be too big. You might as well just use it as the context. It makes sense.
Yeah. Okay. So now we have a person who has a problem of this thing that happens, seeing a goblin, getting attacked by a goblin, but it's still not. The player still doesn't know about it, right? So how does the player know about it? So the way the player finds out about it is by going to the inn, and then when they go to the inn, they can ask to hear what the local news is. And so I generate the local news by going through the people that live here locally and have problems. And so that's how you can see that somebody has a problem. And that's the point where I need to display something on the screen, which I'm going to demonstrate in a second. And then when you read it on that screen, that is a third-person description of it. Okay, so it's like Joe saw some goblins somewhere, right? Like there's nothing actionable there for you, but it tells you that that's something that happened, so you can go and investigate it further. So when I do that, I've actually put the code on the memory itself in order to summarize that. So if I go here into any memory that is put into the brains of the NPC can then be extracted in a first-person or third-person perspective. Again, my focus here is on the quests and on monsters, so that's the code that I've written thus far, but it could be extrapolated to other things. And so here I am generating the third-person perspective of what happened. So I won't go through every line here, but there's a lot of data points that I have to go through. I'm looking at what happened at the time, where were they, what's the kind of monster that was there, and there's a difference between a goblin or multiple goblins. Like the letters and words change based on whether it's singular or plural, and then
it's a nightmare.
It is a nightmare.
Grammar's a nightmare.
I wish I could make it for a different language, like Esperanto, but nobody speaks that, so what am I going to do? And then also, because I don't want people to know or immediately see how I am generating all these sentences and sticking them together, I usually have a lot of different verbs. So you see here, just for the basic thing of, I saw a goblin or he saw a goblin, it's like saw, spotted. I put a second saw in there so it happens more. Thinks he saw. I do the bracket thing here so I can go in and replace a he with a she, because in English you have to do that. Other languages maybe not, but I have to change the pronoun. Claims to have seen, claims to have spotted. So there's I usually have 4 or so verbs or nouns to go with everything. So I take all that, and there's a bunch of adjectives and stuff here, and I stick it all together. And I have 2 different templates for the third person thing. So it picks one of the templates, and then it jams all the data of the memory together in order to get a very simple, hey, Joe was on his way to this town and he saw some goblins. Doesn't that sound like way too much work for so little juice?
Yeah, it does.
Don't you say often, hey, the juice isn't worth the squeeze?
I say that, but I rarely believe it.
Well, that's the way I've been feeling this week. Okay, so that's the third person one. You'll see it's fairly simple. I only have 2 templates, and there's not a lot of data points. So if we go into the first person one, there is way more going on. I'm not going to go into all of it, but this is some of the stuff that I have to figure out ahead of time. Even things like when to have exclamation marks. Sometimes I have to sneak in an extra exclamation mark to split up sentences. Sometimes the sentences weren't fitting together. I have to sneak in commas. I have to, like, if you're referring to multiples, I have to refer to it as it if it's singular, and them if there's plural. And so you can see, again, I'm not going through all of it, but you can see there's like all kinds of different pieces of text. This one has a real special case where I have to throw in a third person noun. So anyways, I scroll down here, and then I have, these are the templates. And I have been running and testing these templates by injecting the data from the memory into each one of these templates, and I must have run 1,000 of these things and then pieced through looking for, punctuation errors, grammatical errors. That is what I've been doing. I think I'm over 15 hours this week alone just of working on these things and stuff. And so that is what I've been working on. This game is insane. I don't know why I'm making it, but this is a very short and detailed explanation of why it's taking so long. I feel really bad for the people that are out there waiting on this build, where's this build? And I'm like, hey, I'm really close to being ready on the build, and then I spend 15 hours on this nonsense. But would you like to see it run? Would you like to see it actually work?
Yeah, of course.
Of course. Okay, so here's the juice. The juice, and we'll see if it's worth this squeeze. Go to the inn, and hopefully this works. Otherwise, I have to do it again. Okay, so we got a bunch of options in the inn. One of them is local news. So go local news, and here we go. This is the third person thing extracted. So a citizen named Mabel Whitbread was traveling to Karula among the trees. She was ferociously attacked by a goblin. Right now it has location, and it's giving you actual hex value. What I was thinking of doing is putting the location in distance from where you currently are. So it's 3 hexes away or 2 hexes away, or what do you think of that?
I like that better than the XY coordinate. Kind of seems, because the citizen, it says among the trees. That makes me think that she was going through a forest.
Yeah.
So I think being able to parse it out of that is interesting. Looking at the map and figuring it out rather than knowing exactly where it happened.
If we look at the map, I don't even remember what those coordinates were. Oh, it must be down here. Oh, she was down here.
There you go. See?
Okay, yeah. So she was down here in these plains, and there's trees there, and so that's why it said that, because I actually figure out what was actually there.
And to me, that's the real value. The grammar is important so you can read it, but in the end, it's really telling you something dynamic about the world that you can use to figure out what that problem is. And I think that's really cool because you feel almost like an investigator, right? You're like an investigative cartographer, something like that.
Sure.
I don't know. I think that's awesome. Where did she say she was headed to?
She was heading to Karula, which is the town that we're currently in. So she was down here, walking her way back up here, and she encountered a goblin there.
Yeah, so I think that's awesome. Yeah, so I don't think the location is important at all, unless it's in a town.
Okay.
Because I want to figure that out by myself with my smart brains.
That's right. So, okay, let's go back. Okay, so from here we see that it's Mabel Whitbread. So if we want to get more information, we can go and talk to her directly. Okay, so this was the third person thing. It's such a simple sentence, but as you saw, there's so much work that went into a simple sentence.
Right.
And really, I just want to go make a scripted game because it's so much easier. I'll go work for BioWare and just make scripted role-playing games and be done with it. Okay, so I leave here. I can't remember what her name is because I keep talking. Okay. Mabel Whitbread. There we go. Okay, Mabel Whitbread. Okay, so now that's why it's important that we have this house list. Remember a long time ago when you made this list and you're like, why are we doing this? Okay, Mabel Whitbread, she lives here. There's 2 people that live in that house. Let's see if she's home. That's a bug. Okay, there's 2 people here. And it looks like her hubby answered the door, so we need to talk to Mabel Whitbread. And look, we have a problem thing.
That's so cool.
So it detected that she had a problem, and the relationship that we have is not so terrible that she would actually tell me her problem. Because if I just keep insulting her and stuff, that thing will actually go away. So problem, and it has a title called Goblin Attack. I had to extract
Nice.
that from what actually happened, so I have a correct prompt. Okay, it was overcast. I was in the bushes traveling to Karula. I heard these strange sounds when, without warning, I was cruelly attacked by a goblin. I defended myself best I could. Will you investigate this for me? There it is!
Absolutely, I will.
That's the money shot. That was like 15 hours of work just to get that stupid piece of text up there.
It tells a pretty good story, I have to say. I mean,
Thank you.
to me, it's so much cooler to like be on a quest that nobody's been on. I don't know. It's just cooler to like experience something that other people haven't experienced in your own little world.
Yeah, totally agree. That's why I'm making this thing. Just for you, Nick.
Thank you, Thomas.
And maybe Durham. So when I started this whole thing, I went and read a bunch of D&D quest things. Like when you're playing D&D, when you're the GM, they give you here's a little blurb that this person has if the players talk to them. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Right. So this is obviously a pre-generated scenario or adventure, right? So I went and I read a whole bunch of those things to try and like get the flavor of it, like what exactly do they say? And they usually kind of give you some context in terms of time of day, some context of where were they, some context of what were they doing and stuff. So I kind of analyzed that and then started working on the game, and then I figured out I was actually missing a few of those pieces of information, and then I had to go back and get them to remember everything at that particular moment and stuff. Anyway, I'm just rehashing what I was doing. So anyways, there it is. And so this quest description is going to be entirely different. Even for the same parameters, it will still be different because of all those variables that you saw and different verbs and adjectives and all that stuff. So hopefully a person will never see the same quest description, even if it's a similar scenario.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, so that's what I've been working on, and it's finally actually working here on Friday night. It's nice way to end the week. That now I think I can move on past this and actually make sure the quests work. So if I accept this quest, then actually she puts the spot right on the map, which I guess you don't like. But you see that she put a big fat X there. That's where it happened.
Well, I guess she could tell you that. That's fine.
That's okay? You're okay with that, Nick?
Yeah, as long you got to do some tracking, but in this case, it makes sense. She would be able to tell you where it is, so I'm cool with that.
Well, if I walk there, actually, let's just do that. I'll walk there, and then you'll see what actually happens. Come on. Okay, yeah. Okay, let's walk there. I got a bunch of bugs in here. You never go beyond the scripted demo. It's not worth it.
But that's where all the fun happens, Thomas.
Yeah.
Plus,
okay.
hey, you were inside there. You had to leave. That's all there is to it.
So I walked to where she told me, and the little X thing went away because I'm there now, right? And
oh yeah, that's great.
And so now I'm here, and there's goblin tracks. Woo!
Now that's cool. I guess I was thinking she'd be telling you where the lair is, but no, this is good.
No, she tells you where she encountered the goblins.
Right.
And then I go there, and the tracks are still there because weather hasn't made it go away. They haven't aged out. And now I search those goblin tracks, and it's like impossible for me to find them right now. But anyway, and so that way, these are the clues I can piece together in order to find out where that goblin lair is. So when I finally get to the goblin lair and go and take on the chieftain, that's like a big moment.
Oh yeah, I totally dig it. I wasn't thinking it all the way through, but you still get to track them and everything, so
yeah,
that's perfect.
Okay, so we'll leave it at that, and if anybody has any questions about how this works, I am happy to answer them. You can ask your question in the YouTube comments or Steam. I like it on Steam. It's easier for me to track it and easier for other people to read it, but whatever you want to do. And that is the end of our short update. That was only, 8 minutes, 10 minutes?
Yeah, maybe like 80 minutes.
Yeah, actually, it's we're coming up to 30 minutes. Okay, well, hopefully with some editing, it's even shorter than that. But anyway, Once again, another short update on Archmage Rises. Maybe people can see why this game's taking so long because I have no concept of time. Okay, well, thank you, Nick, and goodbye, everybody.
Bye.